When I first met Rachel, I never expected that our friendship would lead me to one of the most unexpected and unforgettable experiences of my life. Rachel was the kind of person who carried an air of mystery with her wherever she went. She was funny, quick-witted, and had this way of making any conversation feel like a scene out of a movie. From the very first time we talked, she made jokes about the most unusual things, and honestly, I thought she was one of those people who exaggerated for fun. What I didn't know back then was that one of her jokes about her husband wasn't a joke at all. It all began when I joined a new company in Chicago. I was fresh out of college, excited to start my first real job. The team was friendly enough, but it was Rachel who stood out. She was a little older than me, maybe in her early 30s, but she had this energy that was contagious. During my first week, she walked right up to my desk with her cup of coffee and said, "Welcome to the madhouse. Don't worry, you'll survive. Just don't eat the donuts in the break room. They're cursed." I laughed, thinking she was just being sarcastic. But Rachel had this way of weaving humor into everything, so I played along. She quickly became my go-to person at work. Whenever I felt nervous about a project or overwhelmed with tasks, she always found a way to lighten the mood. She told me countless stories about her life, her travels, and her so-called husband. The first time she mentioned him, we were sitting at lunch. She sighed dramatically and said, "Oh, my husband is going to be so mad if he finds out I ate fries again." I chuckled, rolling my eyes. "Sure, Rachel. Your husband, right? And what's his name, Superman?" She grinned and shrugged. "Close enough." From that moment on, it became a running joke between us. Every time she mentioned her husband, I teased her. She never showed me a picture, never brought him around, and never gave me a straight answer. She'd say things like, "You wouldn't believe it if I told you," or "He's got this wild personality, total opposite of me." To me, it just seemed like part of her quirky humor. Weeks turned into months, and Rachel and I became close friends. We'd hang out after work sometimes, grab dinner, or just talk for hours about random things. She encouraged me when I doubted myself, gave me advice when I was stuck, and always had a way of making me laugh even on the worst days. One Friday evening, after a particularly long week, she invited me over to her place. "You've got to come over," she said excitedly. "I'm making my famous lasagna, and trust me, it'll change your life." I hesitated for a moment, but eventually agreed. I'd never been to her home before, and I was curious. She gave me the address, and I showed up with a bottle of sparkling cider because I didn't know what else to bring. Her apartment was cozy, decorated with plants, soft lights, and photos of places she had traveled to. But one thing caught my eye immediately, a framed picture on the shelf. It was Rachel with a man I didn't recognize. I tried not to stare, but curiosity got the better of me. The man looked a little older, with kind eyes and a confident smile. Before I could ask, Rachel appeared from the kitchen holding a tray of appetizers. "You found him, didn't you?" she said with a mischievous grin. "Who?" I asked, trying to play it cool. "My husband," she replied casually. I laughed, almost choking on the cracker I had just taken. "Oh, come on, Rachel. You're still running with that joke." She shook her head and placed the tray on the table. "I'm not joking. That's Mark, my husband. He'll be home soon." I froze, staring at her to see if she was serious. But she wasn't laughing. Her expression was calm, almost amused at my disbelief. My heart skipped a beat as I processed her words. Wait, her husband? I thought she was just joking. Sure enough, about an hour later, the front door opened, and the man from the photo walked in. Rachel ran up to him, hugged him, and introduced us. "This is Mark," she said proudly. Mark shook my hand with a warm smile. "So, you're the new friend Rachel has been talking about. It's nice to finally meet you." I was stunned. For months, I had teased her about this so-called husband, convinced he was a figment of her imagination, and here he was, real, genuine, and every bit as kind as she had described. I tried to hide my embarrassment, but Rachel caught on quickly. She smirked and whispered, "Told you so." That evening turned into one of the most memorable nights of my life. We ate lasagna, laughed until our sides hurt, and shared stories. Mark was just as witty as Rachel, and together, they were an unstoppable duo. I realized in that moment that Rachel hadn't been hiding him to play some game with me. She had just been waiting for the right time to introduce us. Later that night, after Mark had gone to bed, Rachel and I sat on the balcony, sipping tea. I admitted how foolish I felt for never believing her. She laughed softly and said, "Sometimes people don't believe the truth because it sounds too unusual. But that's the thing about life. It's always stranger than fiction." From then on, I never doubted Rachel again. She taught me a lesson I'll never forget. Not everything that sounds unbelievable is a joke. Sometimes, the truth is sitting right in front of you, waiting to surprise you. Our friendship only grew stronger after that night. I became close with both Rachel and Mark, and over time, they felt like family to me. Whenever I look back on those early days, I smile at how wrong I was and how one simple misunderstanding turned into a lesson about trust, friendship, and believing people when they share pieces of their lives with you. Even now, whenever Rachel teases me about something, I always pause and ask myself, is she joking, or is this another one of those truths that sound too wild to believe? Because if I've learned anything from her, it's that sometimes the most surprising truths come wrapped in laughter.